taking a moment to kind of honor that space and that journey that we go through to get here in this body, in this life. So speaking of this body and this life and really taking care of it and feeling the best that we want to feel and being able to button our jeans and feel really good in our bodies and have the kind of like energy that we want to have in this body, in this life right now, regardless of what's happened before, regardless of how old you are, regardless of all the diets that you've tried or not tried, regardless of how much weight you want to lose, or maybe there's some weight that you want to gain. Losing weight is not always a good thing. Sometimes it's not a good thing, right? Sometimes it's because there's some kind of illness or issue or problem, or something is going on. So that relationship that we have with food, the relationship that we have with our body is a very special and very intimate thing. And most of the time, women are inspired to make some changes in their relationship with food and their body image because of weight gain. But that is not the only time that we become aware that there are some changes that need to be made. So here in this particular group, we talk a lot about food, but we also talk a lot about mindset and the way that we think about things and how powerful it can be when we make subtle changes in the way that we think about things. It changes our perception just enough to get a little bit of a different angle and come at the issue from a different perspective and a different point of view, which then actually allows us to see it more clearly and really wrap our lives around, wrap our understanding around a new concept, a new idea. And so one of the ways in which my brain was changed is when somebody, because I really struggled for a long time. I don't consider it a struggle anymore. That's not to say that my weight doesn't fluctuate. I just don't see it as a struggle anymore, right? There's not that blame and shame and fear of being seen and fear of being found out and hiding in the corner and like, I'm going to start the diet on Monday. Like that kind of stuff is really the kind of thing that I work very closely with my clients and with myself on, to identify that kind of thinking and shoo it out the window, because we got enough issues in life without that drama kind of coming in. So the changes that we make on the subtle level. So one of the things that somebody asked me, because I struggled so hard. It's so hard. Like that was the tape that was playing for a really long time. So hard. It's so hard. I struggle. It's so hard to lose weight. It's so hard to keep it off. It's so hard to get it off. Obviously, like what other choice does my life have if that is my constant thinking and constant awareness and constantly being afraid of gaining it back? So I remember one time a coach that I was working with, a health coach, asked me, he's like, well, if you had to teach somebody how to gain 10 pounds and keep it on, do you think that you would be able to do that? And I was like, obviously. I know exactly the roadmap to take. And it's not just one thing, right? It's a lot of things. And as I was beginning to share with him and tell him the different things, I began to realize, oh my goodness, it's not just the action, it's also my thinking behind it. So I was like, all right, he's like, all right, well, give me the list. Like, what would you do to tell someone to gain 10 pounds, then make sure that 10 pounds stays on? And I'm like, well, like every time that you see food, eat it. Right? And every time that somebody offers you something, you take it and you eat it. And every time that you think to yourself, like, should you or shouldn't you, or should you or shouldn't you, definitely say yes, and then guilt yourself and shame yourself afterwards for it. Make sure that you do that. Definitely make sure that you put off exercising until tomorrow or the next day or Monday or when you take that class. Definitely do that. I would say that you definitely want to choose soda over water every time that you go out. I would also say that when you are out and you are ordering, think to yourself that this is probably the last time that you're going to do this, because you're going to clean up your food tomorrow or the next day or on Monday or after the holiday. So you probably definitely want to get dessert, because this is going to be the last time that you have dessert. You definitely want to get like whatever it's like speaks to you on the menu that is like, you know, the greasiest, the fattiest, the sugariest, like, because you're probably never going to have it again. And so as I was like going down this list and I was sharing with like, what, you know, what to do, like when you go to the movies, definitely get the candy and the soda and the popcorn. When you go out, always get dessert. When you, right. And it was like, I was like listing off these things, and I realized that there is a thought process that goes on like before, during, and after all of these activities. So it's like, it's the justification, it's the making the promises, it's the breaking the promises to yourself. And then it is the rationalization afterwards, right? To like rationalize the behavior that had happened before, because sometime in the future, it's going to be different. And so what I realized is that not only was there a pathway of thinking that got me to where I was, where it was like, of course I was stuck and frustrated. I kept making promises to myself, and I kept making rationalizations and then justifications for behavior and not following through with any of the positive action. And so over time, what happened is that I became a liar, to really just put it bluntly, right? And I could not trust myself to follow through with any action or any activity, especially because I made the action so large, right? It was like, I'm never going to have this again. Like, first of all, that's probably a lie, right? You're going to clean up your food. You're going to do whatever, you know, cleanse or whatever diet. You're going to throw all the things away, and you're just going to say no next time. You're going to make it the whole way. And like all of these lies, this like, it was a heavy lift on the shoulders. And it was too much at once, right? It's like, you're going to start that diet, quit drinking, quit smoking, you know, go on the crazy diet, do the crazy, you know, run a marathon, like you're going to do all the things all at once. And then what happens is that like all of it's clumped together. And so like whatever one of those things on there doesn't happen the way that you had promised yourself, then it's like you throw the baby out with the bathwater, you know, and it's like, oh, okay, well, like, forget it. Let's go hard. Let's go to dessert. Let's go out. Let's go drinking. Let's do whatever the things are. And, you know, we'll start again on Monday, or we'll start again, you know, after this party, or, you know, whatever it is. And so it's that kind of thinking that I practiced a lot. And so that integrity, that like I had broke the integrity with my own self, and I couldn't trust myself anymore, even though I kept lying to myself, and that I knew that like I wasn't going to follow through anyway. So it was like, I knew I wasn't going to do that anyway. And it's this like circle of rationalization and justification and lies. That's how you gain weight and keep it on. And then you keep the lies up, right? This little bit doesn't matter, and that little bit doesn't matter. And what about this? And oh, I really like that. And it just is hilarious how it can just snowball, snowball, snowball. And what's even funnier is that like I totally find myself still doing that today. It is not to like the extreme that it was, of course, before, but like there's like those little habits of thinking like pop up. But what is happening now is that there is an opportunity to notice them and notice them as lies. And that is like one of the coolest things that my clients are beginning to notice as well, where it's like, wait a minute, they're identifying that all or nothing mentality, that good girl, bad girl, I've had a good day, I've had a bad day, I'm being naughty, oh, I've been so good, like that kind of thinking, like, oh, this little bit doesn't matter. And, you know, these little lies that I tell myself is okay, but like these ones are not. All of that are like the little lies that kind of like eat away at us. And they're beginning to notice them for what they are and reinforcing them any longer. Like actually saying, wait a minute, you little bugaboo in there. Wait a minute, excuse me, habitual thought pattern of lie. I do not believe you anymore. I do not believe you, and I shan't go down that road with you any longer. And it's really cool to take your power back like that. Like just because you thought something and just because it's a repetitive pattern of thought doesn't mean that you actually have to engage with it and believe it over and over. Like, that's the subconscious mind just giving you what it remembers. But we actually have the ability to show up present here, now, in this day, with this body and this life, and the commitment that we've made to our health, to our body, to our mind, to our integrity, to our weight. I don't just mean the weight on the body, right? I'm talking about lightening up, like lighten up, right? Lighten up with the thinking. Lighten up with the having to take care of everybody else, not ever having time for yourself. Lighten up with all the way that we talk to ourselves, right? Lighten up the heart and lighten up the body, right? There's a lot of opportunity here to let things go and to lighten up, right? And allow that lightness, right, to open up this beautiful place in this space inside. Like, for the longest time, I felt like I think I'm like a normal sized person, like inside of this heavy body, like one of those like old school sculptures, that like they like chip away to like the beautiful sculpture inside. And it was like, I need someone to come chip away, right? Like, start just cutting this stuff off, and not realizing that there was an internal and external balancing that was always happening. And so that's why I could get the weight off, but I couldn't keep it off. And even when I did get it off, I was so worried about gaining the weight back. Like, what would that mean? What would it mean if I can't control this? And really allowing that kind of stuff to go. So now that we know how to gain the weight, we can reverse engineer that and really begin to acknowledge and become aware. That's really what this is about. That's really what hypnotherapy, the way that I was taught it, is really about. It's not about becoming less aware. You want to become more aware, right? You want to become more present. You want to really be able to identify the things that are working, the things that are not working, and pick them out. Thank you very much. I'm going to keep the things that are working. I'm going to release the things that are no longer working, but we can't identify what that is if we can't see it. Right? So it's really important that we're able to see it. So as we reverse engineer what we were just talking about here, we begin to think about what is the thoughts and the patterns of thinking before, during, and after a meal, before, during, and after a party, before, during, and after going out to eat, in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. Like, begin to think about someone who maybe has those skills that you desire to have, the ability to say yes when it's appropriate, the ability to say no when it's appropriate, the desire and the willingness to do food prep, right? Because quite frankly, regardless of how much you like it or don't like it, right? Regardless of your feelings and thoughts about it, like, if you want to be a healthy person in 2023 and beyond, like, you're going to have to take some responsibility and take some action and take some time to shop, prep your food, cook your food, and eat your food. And it does take some time. Now, obviously, there's tricks and tips along the way so that it's not, hours and hours every single day. I mean, I know plenty of people, one of my good friends in particular, and she's like, I'm the laziest cook on life. She's like, just throw it in the microwave, give me a can. I am not even tripping. However, being intentional with your food is required if you want to be healthy. That's just the bottom line to it. So the sooner that we acknowledge that and we accept that, then we can begin to make the adjustments and stop fighting it and fighting ourselves anymore. Right? Because if you're going to eat out every meal, you are not going to feel good. That's just the bottom line. It's not the same quality food. It's not the same quality oils. It's not the right portions. It's nothing. There's nothing awesome about that on a regular basis. It's fun to have somebody else cook for you every now and then. I will agree with that. So as you begin to think about someone who has these skills and abilities that you want to have, and begin to think about what those skills and abilities are, it's the enjoyment of the prepping the food and cooking the food and eating the food. Regardless if you think that is possible or not, you know that somebody out there is experiencing that, because you're looking at one right now. I definitely enjoy it. I love that part of it. Did not for always, but I do now. The being willing to acknowledge and see the old patterns of thought and the negativity that has kept us around and around. Being willing to identify lies that we're telling ourselves over and over again and believing them. And being willing to pluck them like little weeds in a beautiful garden, and not being mad that they're there. Weeds are supposed to grow. Well, I don't know about supposed to grow, but you know what I'm saying, right? It's okay that weeds grow in the garden, right? And it's okay for you to identify them and pull them out, right? Identify them and pull them out. Be grateful that you can see them. Be grateful that you have the opportunity for it to come to your awareness. That right there, that subtle shift in perception, in perspective, in thinking, just saying, aha, thank you for that awareness, God. Thank you so much for the awareness of the lie that I'm telling myself, that it's so hard, that I'm too old, that I don't want to do it, that I don't have time, that the people are not going to support me. Those things might be true on some level, but they're not 100% true. So begin to see the little subtle shift that happens when you're grateful for these things. You can pull those weeds out. Okay, so there's lots of ways, right? Lots of things that we can do on a regular basis to begin to adjust and transform and shift our thinking. And so the big takeaway from today is two things. One, begin to think of the thought patterns and habits of thought that have got you to where you are, and question them. Question the authority of that habitual thinking. Is it possible that that's not 100% true? And if there is some wiggle room in there, right? What else could also be true? Could it also be true that you're doing a good job? Could it also be true that time opens up when you make things a priority? Could it also be true that there is a possibility for you to enjoy some food prep as you start to feel better, as your energy begins to rise, as you're sleeping better, as your taste buds begin to change, as life begins to really invigorate the system and all of the cells in a way that you didn't even maybe know was totally possible? Yes. Yes. Okay. So that's that, ladies. That's the power lesson for today. So if you would like some actual help with this, I'm going to do this actually in July. So July, August, and September, I'm going to do a 3-month program. So I'm just putting that out there right now. If you want to join right now and get some of the help, you are welcome to do that. You can schedule a call with me, and that will link right up there, freecallwithrose.com. And we can talk about some options that you have moving forward in getting some help with changing your relationship with food and changing your mind about your body, right? And really allowing yourself to feel absolutely freaking great from this day forward. Stop the BS, the belief systems, and all the little white lies that we tell ourselves. Oh, tomorrow I'll do it. Bye. Right? Oh, when I have time after the party, it's not that big of a deal. Oh, man, it just goes on and on. All right. Well, I hope that you're having a really wonderful day. Again, I love you so much, and I hope to talk to you soon.